All right, Mitch, what's happening, man? How's your
Yeah,
day going?
it's going well, Harry. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm hanging out here this lovely evening, Monday evening.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm happy you're here, man. Seriously. Thanks for coming over. Mitch is actually my neighbor. For those of you listening on the podcast,
I didn't have to travel very far, about 7 feet from door to door.
but he's definitely somebody I wanted to have on the podcast with all this craziness going on with the coronavirus and everything else. But before we get into that, I just want to give a little bit of background about Mitch. And so, Mitch, tell us about your background. Like, you're a paramedic right now?
I'm a paramedic in New York City for the past 18 years.
Wow.
I work in Upper Manhattan, and I have a part-time job in Brooklyn doing the same thing. Very attractive field for me. Lots of autonomy, you and your partner, and on a daily basis, you get to do some good.
So how long you been a paramedic for? You said, was it 18 years?
18 years.
18 years. Wow. That's a long time, man. Well, thanks for your service. I mean, luckily I haven't needed your services.
And hopefully never will.
Except the one thing when I think Rove might have sliced her finger on something and you had come rushing over. Weren't sure if we needed stitches or whatever.
Yeah. Did she get a stitch or no?
No stitch. She was good. She was good. So how'd you actually get into like the medical field, getting into first responding? Like, was it something you wanted to do as a kid or something you kind of just got into?
So it's an interesting story, actually. Interesting as far as I'm concerned. You might find it interesting.
I like you, so.
So I've done a lot of things over the years. And I was always looking kind of for my groove. And kind of started late in life. And I went to visit a friend of mine who lives up in the Adirondacks, a guy I grew up with. We spent our late teens, early 20s together. And he lives on 20 square acres, bordering over 100 square acres of the Adirondack State Park. And he's one of the search and rescue guys and an EMT. And his radio was on in the background. He's a volunteer. And I said, what's this? Because we grew up with a lot of guys who were firefighters and cops, but not a lot of people went into EMS. And he said, this will be perfect for you. You got to think on your feet. It's a dynamic career. Every job is different. And you've always a guy who runs towards chaos when everyone's running away. So it was very attractive after we talked about it. So I came back down to the city and I did a little research, got some flyers, and I was downtown in the village, and I walked up to an ambulance, and I asked the guy, hey, how's this job? He goes, you thinking about doing this? I said, as a matter of fact, I am. He said, well, it's not for everybody, but you'll know pretty quick if it's for you. It's not like a lot of other things. You're out going into people's homes and dealing with people a lot of times at their worst. So it takes kind of a soft touch, and it takes the ability to remain as calm as you could possibly imagine under extreme pressure. And I think that's where I thrive. When tensions are high, my heart rate goes down.
So you have a good coping mechanism for stress then?
I do.
Yeah.
At work stress, not home stress.
Yeah.
My wife and my daughter, that's a whole nother story. But
One man, two women in the house?
yeah. No, it's really helped me tremendously. And it's helped me become a better person. The ability to have empathy and compassion and not judge. It's very difficult. I have a very storied background. So coming into this, I had a lot of background. It's very difficult to come into this with any kind of prejudice. Black, white, brown, yellow, gay, straight, trans, drug addicted, alcohol addicted, homeless. If you have any prejudice toward these people in general, it's very difficult to do this job.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, they're just people. I prefer that they don't raise their hands, spit on me, or try to harm my partner. But short of that, bodily fluids are part of the job.
Yeah.
Other people's. As long as they're not purposely trying to douse me with them, I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
But once you could take all that stuff out, and you could see them just as people, it's much easier to do the job.
So what was it like when you first started out? Like your first, let's say, literally, like your first year on the job, you know, what were you doing, and like how was that experience right off the bat?
So it was interesting. So you start out, and I knew nothing about how EMS worked. And you've seen a lot of it on television, and it's a 911 call, and then an ambulance shows up and dives into the chaos. Well, when I started, I worked for what's called a transport company, a private transport company. And the majority of what we did was take people from home to dialysis and then back home. From nursing homes to emergency departments. We did some emergencies, and we did discharges from the hospital. And I realized pretty quickly when I did the emergency jobs that was where I was going to kind of head towards. I realized that the limits of being an EMT, because you go to school for about 4 months, become an EMT, and then in order to become a paramedic, it's another year of school.
Okay.
And I realized once I'd done a couple of emergencies and had that experience, I knew I wanted to be a paramedic because they're much broader scope of practice. You could do a lot more. Mm. As an EMT, you give oxygen, and maybe you give a nebulized, like albuterol treatment for asthma or COPD. And that's kind of the extent. You know, you bandage and you splint and stuff like that, but that's kind of all you do, which is a lot. Give oxygen, of course. But as a paramedic, you get to do those things along with starting IVs and giving intravenous medicine and intramuscular medicine and using a monitor and interpreting people's heart rhythms and getting a chance occasionally to intubate someone who's having severe difficulty breathing or is in cardiac arrest. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot more procedures involved and made it much more attractive to me.
Mm-hmm. So you've probably given CPR a ton of times?
Countless.
Yeah. What's like your typical day like now? I mean, I know you're either working nights or sometimes you have some weird shifts, or I catch you when I'm going to work or whatever, but...
Yeah, so for the past 18 years, I've done 3 16-hour shifts and 2 8-hour shifts a week, every week.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, 2 different jobs, full-time and a part-time. Mm-hmm. It's a lot.
Get a little bit closer to the mic if you can.
Sure.
Yeah, you can move the mic, yep.
How's that better?
A little bit closer. Yeah,
it's getting me a little nervous.
That's good. You're close. Good. You're good.
Is that better?
Yeah, perfect.
All right. Yeah, it's a lot, but you get used to it. Mm-hmm. You stay. I've stayed pretty fit considering my advanced age.
Yeah, you're a pretty buff guy. I mean, I know we had a few talks and gave me some lessons in kettlebells and get-ups and stuff like that, which I love.
Yeah, so kettlebells kind of saved my life, changed my life, along with jiu-jitsu, but we'll get onto that in a bit. It's the kind of field where you want to present a healthy-ish front. If you're sick and you're having a terrible day, and a guy shows up at your door, or a girl shows up at your door, doesn't look very fit or is unkempt, it doesn't seem like they're going to be very comfortable when you walk through the door.
Yeah.
So you want to present a positive first impression. And I think that's really important. Mm-hmm. Because if somebody came to my door and they were potentially grossly overweight or shirt was hanging out or they were, completely unshaven, I don't think I'd be very
people
happy.
Like attractive people, even just for conversation.
A lot of times it's smoke and mirrors, but sometimes it's part of the gig. Mm-hmm. It's nice to have a good opening. It's hard to make a second impression a first time. You can cut that out. You only get one chance to make a first impression.
I know what you meant.
Yeah, I've been up for 20 hours at this point. So.
Yeah, this guy's a champ, man. I got to tell you, I was so excited to have you on because you're fascinating to me. You're my neighbor, but I look up to you in a few different ways. So sometimes when I don't want to work out, or I'm like, God damn, I bet you fucking Mitch is probably either in the back with a sledgehammer, pounding on a tire, or throwing some kettlebells. Sometimes I hear him, I'm like, oh, all right, I gotta throw some kettlebells out right now. Let's go. But what's your typical schedule to work out? Do you have a set routine every week, or how do you keep in shape? And you do a lot, man. Not only taking care of your family, but taking care of other people's families. With your job, And also, I know you do a lot of running around and traveling with your daughter Jenna, who's a amazing softball player. So
Yeah, that's the joy of my life these days. Jenna is a junior in high school and a high-level travel softball player, and just looking to find her a home for college. You know, her goal is to go play Division I softball and obviously get a degree.
yeah,
It's kind of backwards. You're supposed to say that the other way. Get a degree and play softball, but let's call it what it is.
yeah, follow your passion.
Yeah, she loves it, and I love being there with her. We just came back from working out tonight after I worked 16 hours. Drove home an hour, got her, drove an hour down to the facility and worked out for an hour and a half.
You talk about no excuses, especially a guy at your age. You can have all the excuses in the world, you know, and you don't make any. Like, how do you, like, and I'm sure you probably come across guys your age who do make a whole bunch of excuses, and you kind of can't relate to them. Like, what the hell is your problem?
I come across guys half my age who make plenty of excuses. I'm 57, and I feel great. I mean, I you know, if you hang out with me for more than 10 minutes, you realize I don't act 57.
Yeah.
I don't feel 57. I don't think I ever really grew up. I mean, I'm certainly responsible, but I just, I think life's too much fun to get too uptight.
Yeah, I agree. It's more fun this way anyway.
Yeah, so working out, I try to, once I got introduced to kettlebells, my buddy Paulie Alvarez introduced me about 10 years ago. And then from there, a gentleman named Tom Phillips, my trainer, who I certified with the RKC.
That's the Russian Kettlebell Club, right?
Yes. So we've been swinging kettlebells for a long time now. And I just found it to be a perfect avenue for me to stay fit. And even with limited time, like I have a kettlebell in my car that I bring on the ambulance, and between jobs I do swings. So I try to do a couple hundred swings in the course of my 16-hour shift. And it's a great workout.
Yeah.
It's kept my back really kind of bulletproof, even with a couple of car accidents. I mean, I have a little bit of, you know, age on my side, and like I said, a couple of car accidents, a lot of damage. But overall, I think it's really helped me tremendously. You know, because you're put in a very interesting situation as a paramedic in New York City, especially in Washington Heights where I work. There's not a lot of elevators. So you're carrying 50, 60 pounds of equipment up the stairs. Then you have to get the patient, depending on how sick they are, get them off the floor into a chair, from the chair down the stairs, from the chair onto a stretcher, then the stretcher into the ambulance. Then the ambulance goes to the hospital. You got to get the stretcher out of the ambulance and then move the patient one more time. So that's like 6 moves.
Yeah.
And that's along with treating the patient, you know, doing diagnostics and doing a nice evaluation and potentially treating. So there's a very, very high rate of back injuries in EMS because it's not ergonomic. It's not very friendly for your lower back. So the kettlebells have helped me tremendously.
That's great. I mean, yeah, I love them. I started working out with kettlebells actually when my brother got back from the Marine Corps. And he was telling me, hey, man, you got to do some kettlebell workouts. And I was like, what the hell is that? I was like, I always saw it at the gym, but never messed with it. So my brother actually got me started, my younger brother. And I got a whole set here now, as you know.
Do.
But I've been working my way up. I still need some work on technique and stuff, but it's a work in progress. I love them though, and I feel the difference, especially in the core. Like I just feel tighter, you know, like and just.
Yeah, I think the one thing for me doing so many kettlebell swings, my posterior chain is super strong.
Yes, the posterior chain. Yep.
And it's kind of an all-around workout, just doing one exercise.
Yeah.
Certainly, it's plenty of other exercises to incorporate, but if I have a limited time, I just do swings, and it's been wonderful. I've been training since I was a kid, and then played like high school baseball, and then lots of very competitive slow pitch, fast pitch softball. And I've always tried to stay fit. And then I got really unfit. And then I got introduced to kettlebells, and my buddy convinced me to do a Tough Mudder.
Oh, nice.
When I was about 50 pounds heavier than this. And that was the impetus to really get in shape. And then I started doing jiu-jitsu. And that was something I was very attracted to for a very long time. But I was afraid. You know, I was afraid I was going to look like an idiot.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to be any good. I was going to get hurt. And I was older already. I was I was 49. And then my daughter was doing karate at the time. And I met the owner of her karate school brought in a a gentleman for Fernando Sarmento Cabeza.
Okay.
And once I met him, I knew it was going to be okay. And I started doing jiu-jitsu, and I was grossly overweight, and I couldn't breathe, and it was terrible.
It's the worst when you have a guy on top of you, too, just as heavy as you.
Just squeezing the life
Yeah.
out of you. And I couldn't even get through warm-ups first, couple of months. And then I was introduced to my buddy Tom Phillips through another guy who was higher ranked than me, way higher, a guy named Chris Finelli, who actually said to me, because I hadn't seen him for about 2 months, and he was super fit, one of the strongest guys I've ever met. And I said, hey, man, what's up? You look great. What'd you do? He goes, nah, I can't tell you because you're just going to waste my time, and I'm not really interested in wasting my time.
Holy shit.
And I said, no, bro, I'm really interested. And he goes, well, here's the deal. And he introduced me to Tom, and Tom does a thing called the Ultimate Transformation Challenge. It's an 8 or 10 week, hour and a half every Sunday. And you go and you learn how to eat. And it's sustainable. It's not just some crash diet. It's super duper well researched. Tom has been ahead of the curve for 4 or 5 years with supplementation and training and hormone optimization and all kinds of cool stuff. Supplementation, it's just been amazing. And with Tom, I lost 40 pounds in 10 weeks.
What? In 10 weeks?
10 weeks. I was eating more food than I ever imagined, but I was training super hard.
2.5 months. So that's insane.
2.5 months. And it just melted off me. I was very, very strict with my diet. I learned how to eat correctly. I cut out a whole bunch of stuff that he suggested. I followed his workout plan, I guess. The idea of how much to work out and not to work out too much to roast your adrenals and that kind of stuff. And kept it interesting. And once I started losing weight, I just kept it off. And then my jiu-jitsu exploded.
So what kind of stuff were you eating like at that time? Like what was the diet like? It's
So
pretty balanced?
It's extremely balanced. It's extremely clean. For the first 8 weeks, the idea is to cut out dairy, gluten, sugar. You get a cheat meal a week, but not a cheat day, and not a cheat meal till that your face explodes.
Yeah. That's the hardest part. 'Cause once I get a couple cookies in or something, then it's
Yeah.
like, hey, bring on the pancakes, bring on the waffles, let's go.
Exactly. So no bad fats, good fats, tons of leafy greens, fruit in the mornings. And you'd get like 3 servings of protein, 3 servings of carbs, some healthy fats, and lots of water, 3 liters of water a day. Good fresh fruits, vegetables, organic meats, tons of chicken, lots of fish. And you have to eat all the food. So there was none of this calories in, calories out nonsense.
Interesting.
That's for some.
But how were the workouts? I mean, it was probably pretty intense if you were able to lose that much weight.
They weren't. Believe it or not, I would have lost most of the weight without the workouts. I think the majority of the biggest thing for me losing weight was just changing my diet, cutting out all the processed sugars. And there wasn't a lot of soda in my diet, but there were sweetened drinks and there was lots of cake. I've always been a Hostess guy since I was a kid. My mother kind of raised me on Hostess cupcakes and whatnot. People would ask, how do you get him so strong? She's like, he's eating cake. I don't know. So that was fairly interesting for me. So it was a new way of thinking about food. And I was eating a lot of food. And he didn't want you to skip any portion of your day. It was difficult for me because I worked nights. So I had to figure out a way to prepare all the food and then just take small containers, fill up my lunchbox, and make sure I ate it all in the 16 hours I was at work.
Yeah, so you're meal prepping every day, hauling your food to work.
Meal prep once a week. And my wife helped me tremendously. Patricia helped me tremendously with that. I could have never done it by myself. Never would have happened. But she was willing to put up with it, and she saw the results. And my overall demeanor, I think, changed as I lost weight and became happier.
Imagine that.
Yeah, I wasn't really happy when I was heavy.
Yeah.
For a lot of reasons. The way I looked in the mirror, I didn't like it. I would never tell anybody that, but I didn't.
Yeah, you just dealt with it.
And, I wore, I still wear a lot of black, but I wore stuff that was a size too big so I wouldn't feel so fat, but it was terrible. It just felt so much better to be fit. And then jiu-jitsu took off. And I managed to get up to my purple belt before I kind of abandoned it after a bad accident, the car accident I was talking about. And my daughter's softball takes up a lot of time. She travels all over the country in the spring, summer, and fall. And it's fine.
So how was it starting out like in jiu-jitsu? Because that's something that actually I've been looking to get into, not sure how to go about it. I feel like I need to be in better shape, and maybe that's just in my mind, but at the same time, it's something I want to do at some point. My brother's done it. He's done a lot of combat training in the military, combat training on the police force. Now he's a Honolulu police officer. So another reason why I wanted to get you in here, first responders experience. But what would you say, like, as far as like getting into it for the first time?
Yeah, so I had all those fears and all those thoughts, and I hear this a lot from people. Well, I'll start training after I lose weight.
Yeah.
Or I'll get into jiu-jitsu after I get in shape. You know what? It never happens. Just do it. Mm-hmm. Find a school, get a recommendation, and just go. And if you don't like it, that's fine. But if you do, you'll wind up getting in shape just going. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened to me. I met somebody, and then I met somebody else, and they taught me how to get in shape and how to eat correctly and how to maybe work out a little smarter. And I got in great shape, unbelievable shape. And I started competing locally. And then I went to Brazil 3 times to train, and that was fantastic with my instructor and a couple of the other guys and girls. Mm-hmm. And I was out in California competing 3 different times at the Jiu-Jitsu Pan Ams. It's not the Pan Am Games. It's a big Jiu-Jitsu tournament. Mm-hmm. People do come from all over the world, but it's one of the biggest tournaments in this country. And when I was out there as a blue belt at 50 or 51 years old, I won gold in my division and then won gold in the open weight division. So I won double gold.
That's unbelievable, man. I mean, 51 years old, that's pretty impressive. Like, especially since you said you started jiu-jitsu pretty late, right?
I did. I was in my late 40s.
Wow.
Yeah, it's one of the big impetus for me working so hard is, well, my general demeanor, but to show my daughter that it was possible. Because now she can't say, I didn't do it.
Yeah.
It's not possible. She watched me lose the weight. She watched me work out like an animal. And she watched me go to jiu-jitsu, rain or shine, driving an hour and a half to get there 4 times a week. Mm-hmm. And I was pretty committed, like I am with most things I get involved in.
Yeah, you're a very dedicated person.
Like you.
Thanks. But, man, even, I mean, like I commute like about an hour, sometimes hour and 15 to work. What's your commute like? Around an hour?
It's about an hour.
And 15?
Yeah, because I work off hours.
Yeah. And I always bitch about it. I always tell Ro I'm tired of this damn commute. And because I in my mind, I'm like, this is 2 hours of my day wasted, And on top of not getting good sleep or getting a lack of sleep because I'm doing some other stuff, I'm just like, it just frustrates me that I'm sitting down for 2 hours of the day that I could be doing something else, like jiu-jitsu, like working out or anything else.
Yeah, so the drive has become very, very, very easy. Mm-hmm. So I go in at 3 o'clock or 11 o'clock, and I generally come home at 7 in the morning. So everyone's going in the other direction.
Yeah.
So I very rarely hit traffic. And the drive is almost automatic. If I'm not talking to someone, I'm listening to music, and all of a sudden I'm just there.
Yeah.
I don't even know what happened to like 10 exits in a row. Just all of a sudden I'm at the George Washington Bridge again. Once again.
Yeah.
The idea of driving into Manhattan for 7 o'clock in the morning is not a chance.
Yeah.
There's no way I would sit in 2 hours of traffic. But the drive is fine with no traffic.
Yeah.
You're moving. As long as I'm moving, I'm fine. So jiu-jitsu was a big part of my life. It changed me.
Yeah. How was it like your mindset, because it's very technical, but it also, from what I hear from a lot of people, I have friends who do jiu-jitsu and they say the same thing, that you get in like a different state of mind, You're more focused and just more calm, actually. That's the word, calm.
Yeah, it calmed me tremendously because the ability to play kind of human chess with another human being. You're trying to exert some offense, and they're trying to do some defense. And they're trying to do some offense, and you're trying to do some defense. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of a real interesting game. Jiu-jitsu is a wonderful, wonderful experience. If you don't mind being up close and personal.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get sweat on, and you're going to get, you're going to go face to face with people. Hopefully cheek to cheek, not lips to lips. No, just a joke. But yeah, you're going to be sweating and pulling and pushing, and it's just so wonderful at its core.
Yeah.
I'm just a physical guy. I'm kind of a touchy-feely, huggy guy in general. Mm-hmm. So jiu-jitsu was perfect for me.
Yeah, and you get that grit on, and there's some camaraderie too with it, right? Like a lot of guys in the gym are similar guys. They're just trying to get a workout in, just trying to practice their technique or do their thing, deal with whatever they're dealing with.
Yeah, so my experience with jiu-jitsu is very interesting, is that there's not a lot of jerks.
Mm-hmm.
If they are, they get weeded out very quickly. So to say there's no ego is not really fair. There's always ego.
Yeah.
But no one's trying to hurt you. Not the people I trained with.
Mm-hmm.
There's no losing, only learning. That was a line I got from jiu-jitsu that I'd never heard before as an athlete my whole life.
Wow.
And I was like, I like the way that sounds. And the truth of the matter is you lose and you move on. Tap, move on.
Yeah.
Very simple game. I've been put in positions where I easily could have been hurt, but people understand that there's, you have to be a little bit realistic and say, hey, this guy's got a family. This is not a professional match. We're just rolling in the gym.
Yeah.
And everybody understands that.
Have you ever been in any confrontations outside of the gym that you had to use some technique on, or even as a paramedic, a situation that might have got out of hand or anything?
Well, jiu-jitsu has helped me tremendously because there are people who are inebriated, drug-addled, or just people who are kind of out of their minds. And every once in a while, one of these people sees you as a threat and doesn't want any part of it. So I've been able to kind of control people's hands and stay safe.
Yeah.
So jiu-jitsu's helped me tremendously, without a doubt.
Nice.
Nothing
nice.
better.
That's great, man. So let's talk a little bit about your day-to-day now, how things are going in the city, what you've been up to, or any funny stories recently.
Yeah, so unfortunately, we are in the throes of a pandemic in this country. I think there's a lot of information. I think a lot of people are getting bad information. And I think as a country, I can only speak for the East Coast. New York, New Jersey is a very special place. And I think that a lot of people are kind of poo-pooing just how serious this is. Mm-hmm. Yes, there are tons of flu cases every year. Yes, a lot of people die from the flu every year. No, they don't really give you any warnings about flu. But COVID-19 is attacking very, very, very quickly. And I think that the measures that the state and government are taking are a tad late. But the idea of closing restaurants, bars, gyms, unfortunately, big gatherings, concerts, all this type of stuff, I think it's very important right now. I think they got to shut everybody down for a couple of weeks. I don't think this is a COVID storm. I heard someone else say this, actually. It's kind of a COVID season. Mm-hmm. This is going to last another month, 2 months, and we're just going to have to, bear down and be smart and, try to stay healthy. You see the people who are getting very, very sick, older people, people with high blood pressure, diabetes, any kind of a compromised immune system. And the one thing that nobody's talking about is the 45% of the population that's overweight.
Yeah.
This is a big comorbidity.
Yeah.
If you're overweight, lose some weight. It's very doable. I've done it. And I believe that you'll be happier if you try. Yes, it's hard. There's no doubt about it. But life is hard. Mm-hmm. And the most rewarding things that I've experienced in life are the things I had to work the hardest for. When stuff is just given to you or you quit because something's hard, what does it say about you?
Yeah.
What kind of legacy are you leaving for your family, for your kid? You can't just quit. Let's fight through it. And you come out the other side, whether you succeed or not, at least you fought through. Even if it's for an extra day, an extra 2 days. That extra 2 days might put you over the hump and it might change your entire life.
Mm-hmm. That's great. I mean, I can totally relate with that, especially what you're saying about just sticking it through. And you kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel. It doesn't seem like you're, absolutely like, oh, yeah, this is going to be the end for everybody. So if anything, it's like a wake-up call, really, And I think that people should just calm down a little bit. Everybody has a lot of anxiety right now over this, and I see people like we were just talking about before we came up was people fighting over toilet paper and stupid shit, for no reason.
I don't get the toilet paper thing.
it's a mystery.
I don't get the toilet paper thing. I don't even get the water thing here in New Jersey and New York. The water's fine out of the tap.
Yeah, it's
Speaking of which, excuse me.
But yeah, I was yesterday. I worked out and it felt great. I was downstairs, and I don't know, it was just a little wake-up call. I was like, if this is the apocalypse, or if there is some crazy shit going down, I want to be in shape. So I think a lot more people, because of this, are either working from home or trying to stay home mostly, and just with especially on the East Coast, it's go, 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 go all the time.
All the time.
So now we can just kind of chill out a little bit, take some time to think, be grateful for your family, be grateful for your loved ones, maybe call somebody, right, that you haven't spoken to in a long time, tell them that you love them, and reconnect with yourself, reconnect with your community,
Yeah, I'm going to pull a quote from my buddy Tom, who just posted a video online, and his biggest fear right now is that people went out and bought a ton of food, and a lot of it's crap. And they're going to sit around for 2 weeks while their kids are out of school, eat this crap food, sit on the couch and not move. It's an excuse not to train. Excuse me. Carbonated water. They're stressed out, so they're tons of cortisol and all these bad hormones flying around in your body, not getting sleep because they're so freaked out about what's going on. It's the perfect storm for 3 weeks of really bad behavior.
Yeah.
And at the end of 3 weeks, what happened? It's very difficult to lose weight, but it's really easy to gain weight.
Yeah.
You can gain 20 pounds in 3 weeks, sitting around eating sugar-laced cereals and cake and candy and soda and all this kind of stuff. And this is the time when it's the most important to stick to your guns. And if you're someone who trains, continue to train. Yeah. If you're someone who's eating well, continue to eat well. There's no excuse here. Mm-hmm. Society's not coming to an end. We will get through this. We will come through the other side of this. Mm-hmm. There's no doubt about it. But I think it's really important to remain vigilant. And what I mean is, take care of yourself. Continue to, stay hydrated. Drink a lot of water as much as you can. Continue to take whatever medicines you're supposed to take. And try to eat some more leafy greens, some fresh fruit, some organic meats, some healthy fats. Mm-hmm. I just feel so much better when I do it. So I can't recommend it highly enough to everybody who'll listen.
Yeah, and that keeps you healthy, right? It keeps your energy levels up.
Energy levels up.
Immune system strong.
Immune system your immune health is really, really important. And the way to do that is the things we've been talking about. Eat right, move, sleep. Mm-hmm. Find some way to get rid of your stress.
Yeah, and a lot of people too are actually, there's a few yoga studios that I know of that are actually doing online classes, like web classes where people can log in and they're live streaming an instructor and they're doing a class, I haven't seen anybody do that yet with like a boot camp style or a kettlebell workout or anything. But definitely to anybody listening, look for those things online, do some YouTube video workouts in your living room, anything to just get moving. Like you're not, just because you're, quarantined in your house or in isolation or social, whatever. What do they call that? Social distancing and all that.
Yeah, like this.
Yeah,
6 feet.
Yeah. But you can still stay in shape and take those actions to just better your health and everything.
I think you have more time to even train now.
I love it. I love it.
See, one of the things I think that people get confused with, the idea of training, and I've talked to people I worked with who just were resistant. I don't have money to join a gym. I don't have an hour a day. I can't. Okay, well, if you want to make excuses, you can make excuses all day.
Yeah.
But what I tell people who I visit as a paramedic, and very often they have a large television, and they're sitting around, and they go, wow, you guys stay in such good shape. How do you do it? Mm-hmm. I say, well, I don't know how to train. I don't know. I've never been to a gym. What do I do? So I suggest some simple dietary changes. Cut out some crap, and move. So I ask people, do you watch television? They're like, yeah, I watch a lot of television.
So proud of that.
So the average, if you're watching regular, television, average commercial is set of commercials about 3 minutes and 30 seconds. So for 3 minutes and 30 seconds, get off the couch, lie down on the floor, get off the floor, stand up, lie back down on the floor. Go down to your left side, come up on your right side. Go down on your right side, come up on your left side. Go to your elbow, go to your hand, go to a knee. Try this for 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Tell me how you feel about that.
Come on, Mitch, that's ridiculous.
I've had people call me and go, I hate you. I'll never ask you for another suggestion again, because it's way harder than you think.
Yeah.
But now you've worked out for 3.5 minutes. Sit back down on the couch and continue watching your show. The next commercial, do it again. Now, over the course of 2 hours, now you've trained for 25 minutes, 30 minutes.
Interval training right there.
It's about volume.
Yeah.
You don't have to work out until you're sweating and exhausted. But if you're going to start out anywhere, that's a place to start out. It's cumulative. You can work out throughout the day or throughout your evening while you're watching television, 3 minutes at a time.
Yeah.
If you don't want to do that, stand up, sit down. Stand up, sit down. Do it for 3 minutes. Call me and tell me how much you hate me afterwards. But for me, there's no excuses. You just want to or you don't want to. If you want to, there's a way. There's time. Everybody has the time. Everybody has 10 minutes a day. Grab a kettlebell, learn how to swing it, swing a kettlebell for 10 minutes, your workout is done for the day. Go to work.
I love it, man. I love it.
In 10 minutes, you could probably get in 300 swings. You could easily get in 200 swings. Even easier, you can get in 100 swings. 2 sets of 10. 10 swings, put the bell down.
And it does a lot of work on that heart rate, right?
It does. I've had young guys who run, and I taught them how to swing a bell, and they start swinging the bell, and after about 3 minutes, they're like, my heart rate's 170. How did that just happen?
Yeah.
Well, it's a different movement. It forces your heart and lungs to work harder. The harder they work, the better you feel.
I love it, man. So let's get into it, actually, as far as your experience right now in the city.
Yeah, I started and I got sidetracked, but that's common with me.
Oh, no worries.
So people are resistant to even the good information they're getting from the news. And that good information right now is, if you're feeling any symptoms and you're under 50, you don't have any underlying health problems, take Motrin Tylenol, eat well, stay home. Don't go to the hospital because everyone in the hospital is sick.
Yeah.
There's no point in sitting around a hospital because the hospitals are inundated right now in New York, New Jersey. If you go to a hospital and you're not sick, I think the chances of you becoming sick are very, very high. Mm-hmm. Sitting around an emergency department for 6, 7, 8 hours because the beds upstairs are full.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard that in New York they're looking to add like 8,200 more hospital beds, and in Jersey around like 9,000. The governor was talking about that today.
Yeah, there's a lot of sick people. And I think in general, people call an ambulance way too often in New York. I don't know what they expect us as paramedics or the hospital to do for them with some minor illness. I think people need to be a little bit tougher. I think we're getting kind of soft as a society. But this COVID thing is no joke.
Yeah. What are you doing as a first responder to take precautions, for your day-to-day? Are you wearing like certain masks? Are you in the bubble suit?
So it's difficult for 16 hours to be in any kind of suit.
Yeah.
We have some guidelines as far as wearing a mask on patient contact with goggles because the disease is airborne. It is droplet. So you have to have some contact. The idea of keeping your hands clean and cleaning surfaces is wonderful. Mm-hmm. But if you're not a person that goes to your face and you're not sticking your fingers in your nose, your mouth, your eyes, it's probably not such a big deal. I went through more gloves today than I usually do in a month. Mm-hmm. I went through a lot of gloves. I had a mask on. I had goggles on, and that's what we did. We had to, if not for any other reason, to show people that this is what we should be doing. We're protecting them from us and us from them at the same time. I think that people need to show a little common sense.
Yeah.
You have a fever, Motrin Tylenol. You're not feeling well, eat something. Drink more water. 75% of the population is dehydrated in this country. There's no doubt about it. Mm-hmm. You might be fine. You might feel okay, but I guarantee you're not drinking enough water. We've proven that over and over again.
Yeah. So how is it like are you nervous now when you go into somebody's house? Because there's a lot, it's a lot of information that the news is putting out, a lot that you're seeing on social media. And I was messaging my brother. I was like, hey, man, are you staying safe out there? Like, doing your thing? I know you're going into a lot of houses and stuff. And how many houses do you think you go into a night? And of people who are actually sick, who need help? And are you concerned like now, especially going back home in the morning to your family?
Yeah, so that's my biggest concern, is bringing something home. As far as me getting sick, my immune system's very strong. I very rarely get sick. Am I concerned that I'll get sick? Of course. Why wouldn't I be? That's just be silly to say I'm not. Am I afraid? Well, afraid's kind of a tough one for me, but I'm concerned.
Yeah.
You could call it fearful if you'd like. I won't. But I'm certainly concerned. Otherwise, I wouldn't wear a mask.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I wouldn't wear a pair of goggles. The other night, we had a situation where a young woman was very, very sick. And I don't believe it was COVID, but who knows?
Right.
We have no idea. And I think she was about to take her last breath. And we treated her very aggressively, very quickly, right there in the hallway outside her apartment with no protection. Mm-hmm. And she got better. I didn't think she was going to do well. When I first saw her, our first interaction with her was not attractive. When I saw her, I thought, oh my God, this woman's about to die. Mm-hmm. And luckily we were able to turn her around and she's fine. Did she have COVID? I have no idea.
Yeah. That's
one of the problems, is there's no way for us to find out unless we go back to the hospital and check up. There's nothing in place for them to say, oh, this person's positive. Mm-hmm. They came in by ambulance. Let's see who the crew was and make sure we contact them. The turnaround time for that test is like 36 hours.
Yeah.
So in that 36 hours, even if it was a 100% positive case, I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Do you feel like you guys are getting enough help from like the government and the state, at least, for anything that you guys need as far as tests are concerned? And I felt like last week there wasn't a lot of talk. I think there was some talk about the tests, but this week it's like ramping up. They're trying to make sure everybody's getting a test that's available to them. I saw emails go out from my job, and you can get coronavirus test and all that. So is there any like a shortage or even of ventilators, like Trump was talking about today, that they're looking to get more ventilators available and other equipment? Is there anything that you can see from being on the ground floor here?
Yeah, well, there's plenty of gloves, but there's no masks.
Oh, Jesus. Is that because all the douchebags bought them, like, from the freaking store?
I think they're all hidden in a trailer down in Kentucky or Tennessee. I don't know what happened to all these masks. But no, we don't have enough masks. No, we didn't get a lot of specific information for us. There weren't a lot of meetings that said, hey, you and EMS guys, you guys do this, think about this, clean this. They kind of just left it up to us and said, okay, here's some basic ideas. Here's a mask. Go out there and do your job, which is really unfortunate. And up until today, nobody was being tested. The only reason you're being tested is if you're some sort of a politician,
right,
a professional athlete, actor, actress, or you're dead or dying.
Yeah.
No one else is being tested.
Yeah, that's what they were saying, is that there's a whole bunch more cases that are going to come out because people are not actually getting tested. And once they actually test, then they'll know. Like right now in New York, there's like 950 people, I think, 950 cases in New York. And in New York City, 436, I think I read today. And in Jersey, we just got up to 178 today. And this comes with, as we progress with testing, we're finding out more people who are actually have the virus.
I think that the majority of people, there's a huge part of the population that's already had the virus in the past. Mm-hmm. Gotten the virus and just beat it. No symptoms, no nothing. How many people did they infect? Who knows?
Right.
We'll have no way of knowing. When they start testing people, I think that's when even more panic is going to set in, because you're going to see an exponential jump in the number of cases. It's not going away in 2 weeks. I think a 2-week quarantine will be wonderful.
Right.
But like they talk about flattening the curve on these graphs, when you look at these other countries that had this tremendous spike in cases, and then they put into effect these self-quarantines or remanded people to their homes, then there was a huge decrease, and then it flattened out, and now it's kind of normalizing, like in China. Yeah, it was horrible what went on there, and it's horrible what's going on in Italy right now. But I think it's very important to stay away from gatherings. I mean, I think they're going to drop it down to 10 people. I think they're going to close down everything. Today they closed gyms and bars and restaurants and non-essential stores.
And public schools too, right? Everything's closed.
Almost all schools are closed. Jen is out of school. And it's okay. I think people need to have a little distance right now.
You happy about that?
That she's out of school?
Yeah.
I am not happy that she's out of school, but happy why she's out of school.
Oh, yeah. The
I
reason.
think it's a perfect reason. As a softball parent, and she's a softball player, this is prime time right now for high school softball.
Yeah.
And so it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking what took place in the NCAA with all these kids. Their seasons just came to an abrupt halt. I can't even imagine being a senior in high school or a senior in college, and this is it. It's over. Softball's not exactly a route to a professional career.
Yeah.
Like other sports. So for a lot of these women, especially in softball, that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm not going to talk about basketball and football. I know nothing about that.
Yeah.
My kid plays softball. I've been surrounded by people who play softball. I know a lot of girls who are in college playing softball. They're heartbroken. They worked so hard for all these years, and now it's just over, especially the seniors.
Yeah.
Whether a senior in high school looking to go out, like a swan song, or a senior in college looking to leave a legacy.
Yes.
And now it's nothing. Boom, one day it's over. And I feel terrible for them. It's just a very, very hard pill to swallow. But I think it's a good idea. What they're doing here in Greater Middlesex County is they're going to go week by week. And they're going to look to maybe get some softball in May. And if they do, they do. If they don't, and if it's in the public's best interest not to, then maybe they shouldn't. But let's see how the disease progresses.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, right now we have like 2 cases here in North Brunswick. As of over the weekend, we found out. So that was kind of eerie, hearing that news. It's just different when it hits home. When I saw these videos on China and stuff, I'm the type of person, if my mom was still alive, she would say this, because I always made fun of her for every time she would watch CNN and tell me to be careful when I left the house. I'd be like, yeah, whatever, Ma, it's going to be fine. Like, don't worry about it. So now it's just different, being older, having a wife, having I want to have a family one day and stuff. And you start thinking about these things. I'm like, shit, what if this is something I really need to worry about? And I've never washed my hands this much before, or used hand sanitizer. I would wash my hands, but I didn't carry hand sanitizer. I didn't, if Ro gave it to me, great. But otherwise, fuck all, whatever. You know what I mean? But it's just very different once it hits home. And I think a lot of people here, even in politics, kind of downplay this, a lot more than we should have. We could have been more prepared.
There's no doubt about that. I think there was, at some point, a pandemic response in place. And I think they dismantled it. And I think that's a problem.
Yeah.
We were caught completely with our pants down here. We're completely...
it's an election year, too. You don't want to disrupt anything. We got to keep everything pretty.
Yeah, well, they don't want to cause panic, but they caused more panic they could ever imagine.
Yeah.
And we're really not prepared at all. Just with masks alone. And the ability to take care of people who are very sick. The number of ICU beds, the number of ventilators who need them, who get very, very sick. If people start to get sick in any way, shape, or form, like China or Italy, we're in big trouble here.
Yeah.
We're in big trouble. We're in big trouble now. If they start testing more people, which they should, I think that came out today, that they have a test that's 6 to 8 hours turnaround as opposed to 36 to 48, you're going to see a lot of very, 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 very unhappy people because a lot of people are going to test positive.
But a lot of people have recovered, too. There are
yeah,
numbers.
the recovery rate is very, very high.
Yeah.
More people will recover than will die, like most diseases. But people are dying at an alarming rate.
Yeah.
Last year, worldwide, I think there were 1 billion cases of flu. 500,000 people died. Did you hear about that?
No, absolutely not.
Did anybody tell you to wear a mask last year?
And I wasn't paranoid about nothing.
Did you wash your hands last year?
I think I did. At least once.
Yeah.
Man.
But you don't hear about this stuff because it was kind of the norm.
Right.
Right. And it was kind of a slow progression. And it's kind of like what goes on every year. They don't tell us. This, very similar, right? There's always been coronaviruses. It's kind of the basis of the common cold. But this is another species, for lack of a better phrase, of the coronavirus. And it's extremely virulent and it's extremely contagible. Those are 2 words I just made up.
I love it.
It's highly contagious.
Yeah.
And people are getting sick very quickly and dying. The ones who have some pre-existing medical conditions. I haven't heard any cases of anybody to date in this country who was just a normal 35-year-old guy who got incredibly sick. I haven't heard that yet. Is it going to happen? Potentially.
Yeah.
One thing that we have on our side is that no kids are getting really, really sick. The numbers are really in kids, when I talk about kids, I'm talking about like 18 and under.
Yeah.
The numbers are very, very low. I haven't heard about any kids getting super sick. They need to be hospitalized or, put on a ventilator or dying, which is a great thing, as opposed to things in the past which attacked kids primarily. And that's not the case. The majority of people that are dying are over 50, certainly over 60, with pre-existing medical conditions. And, a lot of people discount the idea that they might be diabetic. That's a big one, right? Insulin, I'll think of it in a second. But people who are diabetic who might not even know.
Right.
So that immediately drops your immune system a little bit. People who have high blood pressure and previous cardiac disease. And again, like we talked about, people who are overweight or immunocompromised. Mm-hmm. So there are a lot of medicines that will cause you to become your immune system to really take a hit. And you got to be aware of that. A lot of people take medicines. They have no idea what the overall side effects of these medicines are. There was a commercial years ago. This is just a quickie. And it was a person going to a car dealership. And they asked, so does it come in red? Does it have mag wheels? Does it have a 4-speed? Does it have a T-top? Can I get it with a sunroof? Blah, 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 on and on and on and on and on. And in the next frame, they fast forward and they show the same person in a doctor's office. Doctor says, you have any questions? And the person says, nope. Here, let me implore everybody out there. If you go to a doctor, bring questions. Even if you're just going for a checkup and you have a question, ask the question.
Yeah.
He's your doctor. You don't like your doctor? Get a new one. You don't like your dentist? There's plenty of them out there.
Yeah.
Do not continue to go to someone who you don't like. Find somebody you like and ask questions, especially if you're taking medication, if they're giving you new medication, if you've been diagnosed with something. If you don't understand the instructions they're giving you about how to take medication, ask.
Yeah.
Don't ever worry about feeling or looking stupid because that's the wrong time to worry about that. You got to ask these people questions. That's what they're there for.
It's your body. It's your health, right?
Don't let them rush you out of the office. Excuse me, I have a question.
Yeah.
You want me to take the medicine twice a day, in the morning and in the evening with meals? Yes? Yes. Great. Now I understand. Because, everybody, we're Americans.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I know what I'm doing. Apparently not.
That's true. So what do you think about the flu vaccine? Do you get that every year? Do you believe in that?
So I have to, being a healthcare provider. Do I believe in it? Well, I would believe in it more if it worked for everybody.
Yeah.
It doesn't. And I understand why.
People still get the flu.
People still get the flu. Because there's so many strains of flu. The people at the CDC or whoever comes up with this yearly vaccine takes a look at past years and based on some mathematical model tries to come up with what they think the next flu will be, which strain. Mm-hmm. And you get a flu vaccine. Does it work? Some years it's better than others. I have to get it. I really don't get sick that much because, like I said, I think my immune system is pretty strong. I eat well. I vary my intake of fruits and vegetables. Mm-hmm. And I eat lots of them.
What's your favorite vegetable?
Favorite vegetable? Probably carrots.
Carrots? Wow, nice. Mine's asparagus. I like asparagus with a little oil and vinegar, or oil and garlic,
Yeah, so generally my wife still prepares my meals. And a common one these days is some sort of chicken with string beans and asparagus with lots of garlic. So the one thing I could tell you, if there are vampires out there, I'm good because I'm eating a ton of garlic.
Yeah.
But it's one of those acquired tastes as you get older, very, very flavorful. My wife does a great job of keeping me healthy.
Yeah, Patricia's awesome. She's always cooking something.
Yeah, well, it's difficult. When you work nights, there's only so much good food out there. There's food, but it's not exactly the healthiest.
Yeah.
You can continue to eat, but bringing food from home, you know what you're getting. Probably saving a couple of bucks in the process. And it usually tastes a lot better than stuff you're getting that's kind of faster food. Mm-hmm. Not fast food, but faster food. So she does a great job keeping me fed and hydrated. So she sends me to work for 16 hours. I have generally 2 or 3 meals, smaller meals, some fruit, a couple oranges and an apple. No dessert. That's just not happening. You sneak like a Twix bar or something usually during the night. And lots of water and seltzer.
So you got a big cooler you bring?
I have a cooler-ish type of thing. It's about 3 liters of liquid in 16 hours I try to consume. I pee a lot, but, it's one of the downfalls. Getting old, too. So. Listen, if you're not peeing clear, you're dehydrated.
Yeah.
It's the bottom line. It's an easy test. Just look at your urine. If it's dark yellow or brown, you just got to drink more, man.
Yep.
You're severely dehydrated. And even though you look good at like 30, 35, and, it's a very simple way to find out.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, actually, is there like some people can be jerk offs, right? That you might meet, going into people's houses and stuff. I wanted to ask you if there's anything that you would like people to hear from a first responder of what they can do better in situations, when they call you guys and you guys show up. Is there a certain kind of a better practice that you think that that people who are calling 911, could have when they bring a first responder into their house?
Yeah, well, it's very interesting dynamic, right? So for a lot of first responders, they're young, and they haven't gotten the idea yet that they're not that important, and this is someone else's home. There's someone that may be having the worst day of their life. So be respectful as a first responder when you go in the house. Your opening gambit can't be condescending and omnipotent and nasty. It really shouldn't be. There's no reason for that. If that's what you want to do, find another line of work. But that's what happens. That's what, people do. They get involved. They become cops or firefighters, and they think they're, just a step above everybody else because they have this little bit of power. And that's unfortunate. But it's part of the gig. As far as on the receiving end, as a family who's called 911, especially if you have children, right? I'm a big fan of telling everyone, go out and find a CPR class, a first aid class. So at least you have idea what an emergency might look like and how to respond. Even if that's a little bit of stress inoculation on going, oh my God, he's really sick, I need to call 911. Call 911, be very succinct, specific on the phone. Tell them how old, what you think is wrong, what your address is, and if there's more than one person in the house, have somebody go outside to meet the ambulance. Because we show up to buildings and there's a broken intercom system, and it's a building with 100 apartments. I don't know what apartment it is. And then they have to call back, and hopefully the person will answer the phone, and then someone will come downstairs and let us in, and then we'll get to the patient.
That could be 5-10 minutes, like just going through. Hey, I'm on this floor. The elevator's to your right when you get in.
Yeah, just getting into these buildings sometimes is a big problem because a lot of the intercoms are broken. But if you're going to call, be prepared. If you're taking a big grocery list of medications, or someone in your family is, and that's the person who's sick, make a list and put a magnet on it, stick it on your fridge. This way when we walk in, you say, here it is. Name, date of birth, medicines, allergies, previous surgeries, previous illness. Simple. Now half my job is done. Because getting that information is really, really important. Because I now have to have some kind of continuity of care and give that information to the emergency department. The more information you can give us, the easier it is for us to treat you and the emergency department to treat you. Excuse me. I think saying thank you at the end of the, when we're done, after we've dropped someone off at a hospital, I know you're having a terrible day. I know the last thing on your mind is saying thank you to us. But I think saying thank you in general in this current time, whether someone holds a door for you or saves your mom's life, thank you goes a long way.
Yeah.
Do I need it? No, I don't. I know when I've done the right thing. And that's the majority of the time I'm at work. Not all the time, but most of the time.
Yeah.
I'm certainly trying to help people. Otherwise, I couldn't do this.
A lot of practice.
Lots of years. A lot of years. Do I get frustrated? Sure. Do I treat everybody like I'm Mother Teresa? No. But they're usually people who haven't treated me very nicely either. Not an excuse. And I'm not making some sort of pathway for me to say it's okay for me to be not nice to people, but I'm not always the nicest person either. Everybody has a bad day.
Definitely.
But I think that your core being is your core being, but I think people can learn to amend their behavior for the better. Once they're made aware of it and they acknowledge that it's a problem, you could do something to change how you behave towards others. And I think I've learned to do that over the years. Like, I'm confrontational. Here's a perfect example. Give myself up here. I love it. One of my favorite things. And for many years of my life, it was my survival tool. It's what I needed. I'm loud. I think I'm very witty. I think I'm funny. But it doesn't really work on like a chaotic EMS job.
Yeah.
There's no point in yelling back and forth with people. And I did that for a while. And I was good at it. But it didn't help the situation. So here's what would happen. We're in a house. There's several family members. There's always one alpha in the house.
Yeah.
Whether it's a guy who just got out of jail or a 16-year-old girl who's got crazy attitude, right? And then there's us. Potentially there's EMTs, firefighters, and cops. So somebody raises their voice. Not because they're generally trying to be obnoxious or rude. They're afraid. And it's not personal. They would be pointing it at anyone who walks through the door. Excuse me. Sorry about that. So if someone yells and then I yell back, then they yell louder. Then perhaps the EMT or the firefighter or the policeman get involved. And now it's just an escalating kind of crescendo of nonsense. I call it spinning the wheel of chaos. Once you spin it, it's very hard to stop. What I learned to do is to speak under the craziest person I could find in the house. I put my hand on their arm and I say, "How can I help your grandmother?" And it stops. Because how do you combat that?
Yeah.
How are you going to yell back at me now after I just asked how I can help in a very calm voice? It took me a long time to get to that.
I can't understand why people would actually yell at somebody who's trying to help them, that they called into their house. And I'm sure I've seen stories, I've seen like videos and stuff, and I couldn't imagine dealing with that. And you never know, you'll never know. If you had a call and you came into the house, I would never know how many calls you had already in that one day, how much shit you might have dealt with. You might have just came where somebody just passed away on you, You never know. So I think common courtesy goes a long way, especially right now with first responders. So just be kind out there,
I think we could just be kinder to each other.
Yeah.
I think we could do a better job. If somebody holds a door, like I said this earlier, just say thanks.
Yeah.
Hold the door for somebody because it's the right thing. We see a lot of it on the road. And from the road, you're driving to work and somebody cuts you off and then you cut somebody off and then there's that. Then you got to go work now for 8 hours or 16 hours. And you take that with you. And that's always a problem. So I try to start my shifts fresh. When I get to work, I usually talk to someone about my drive in, if there's been any issues, and I dump it, leave it right there. People are, and like we talked about, I can never understand why people are so aggressive towards us sometimes in their homes. And I know what it is now. It's because they're afraid.
Yeah.
They would never say they're afraid, but they're very demanding, and they feel very entitled. You got to do this, do that. You need to do this. They watch television or they went online, and they're telling me how to do my job. I'm pretty good at my job. I've been doing it for a while.
Oh, my God.
I stay pretty up to date on current trends and the current science and, things that have changed, what drugs we're using, what drugs we're not using, what techniques we're using, what techniques are not working. I talk to a lot of doctors. I talk to other paramedics and find out what's going on and what's changing because it's a very dynamic field. It's not a static field like math. Math is kind of straightforward. 1 + 1 is 2. It's always going to be that way. What medicines we used 2 years ago might have fallen out of favor. A medicine we gave up on 10 years ago might wind up back in our, formulary. You got to stay up to date. And that's one of the things that attracts me so much, that it's so dynamic.
Yeah.
Right. But I think that overall, a lot of people, I'll speak about myself. For a long time, I didn't understand any other feelings, but, happy and angry. Right? I was a guy. I grew up in the Bronx with just my mom. I was like the only Jewish kid in my neighborhood, and I hung out with much older guys than me because I was a really good athlete.
Yeah.
And I had a big mouth. And I fought a lot, got beat up a lot, beat some people up. It was one of those things.
Yep.
It was a different time. Usually the people you fought with, you became very good friends with. The point of that was I never understood the rest of those feelings, what's in between happy and angry. Right? So I was angry a lot.
Right.
But generally I was afraid. I would never admit that. Could never. How could I go back and hang out if I said I was scared? Somebody told you to do something, you did it. You never wanted to look like that guy.
Yep.
I was terrified. I was terrified a lot. But, the ability to walk through that fear, do something that's incredibly difficult, and come out the other side teaches big lessons throughout your life. And through a lot of work and the course of my life, I understand there's a lot of feelings between happy and angry. And I'm able to put my finger on those a lot of the time. And I have some friends who I call fairly regularly who are willing to set me straight when I can't figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing that's been tremendous for me is the ability to ask for help.
Yeah.
I think the greatest lesson that I could have possibly learned was the ability to say, I don't know, but let me find out for you. Or I don't know, and then go find out from someone I think would know. And then the smartest people I've ever met were the people who had the ability to say, I don't know either. Let's go find out together.
So would you say that was one of your biggest challenges, like dealing with that, happiness and fear, like what's in the middle there?
Absolutely.
Or talking to people?
Absolutely. And most of that was done before I got into MS. Luckily, the ability to not worry about how I look to others, there's still a little bit of that. Everybody has that. But I'm confident in what I'm doing. And when I, screw up, I'm willing to say, oof, boy, I made a mistake there, and learn from it and move on. I think taking responsibility for my own behavior is super important. Trying to deflect and tilt the guilt is not really a good technique. I don't think it's really fair to the people around you. And it's certainly not fair to me. If I make a mistake, I need to own up to it. It's just that simple.
Definitely. So I think we covered a lot, man. We covered a lot tonight.
This is kind of fun.
It's been a solid hour or so. And
has it really?
Yeah.
Oof, gosh.
Unbelievable, right?
Yeah. Like I said, I hope I don't sound like too much of a boob.
Nah, you're good. You know what you're talking about, Mitch. That's for sure. You can't downplay you on that. A lot of experience behind you. But it's good to know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel as far as like what you're seeing, And people should not traumatize themselves by, consuming so much information online. I found myself this weekend consuming a lot, and Sunday night I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, what's happening in the world,
Yeah, and what's really important to me right now, there's a lot of information, and you can go out and find lots of bad information about everything.
Yeah.
You could find a terrible person doing a YouTube video on how to swing a kettlebell. And you could find out what not to do about the COVID-19 virus. And you don't know who the experts are. You don't know who's right. So you're taking in all this information, and a lot of it might be contradictory. So do a little research. Find out who the experts are. Listen to someone who really knows what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think listening to Joe the Barber is a great idea, but listening to the guy who's an epidemiologist, at Harvard, that might be the guy you want to listen to.
It was funny. A lot of people were saying that COVID doesn't exist in heat or in hot environments or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then there was a professional who debunked that. They're like, "Are you kidding me? Like, it doesn't have to do with the heat or the temperature. Like some people were sitting in saunas thinking that would help them, avoid it and stuff. And a lot of misinformation out there too. But
there certainly is.
Bottom line is stay hydrated, take your vitamins, eat healthy, get yourself into shape, sleep a little bit. Wash your hands.
Wash your hands.
The basics, right?
Clean surfaces. Try to keep your hands away from your face. I know I probably went to my face about 30 times during this discussion.
Yeah.
I do that, though. My hands are clean. I made sure I cleaned them before I came over.
Appreciate that.
But there's a lot of bad information. For instance, just to let people know, when you come home, if you've been out, it doesn't matter who you've been with. Get your clothes off. Get them in the washing machine. Jump in the shower. Clean off. My biggest fear is bringing anything home to my family. Excuse me. So I try to be as careful as I can with hand health and getting my dirty clothes off as soon as I can and get them into the washing machine. It seems like common sense. Common sense is not so common these days.
Yeah.
Even for me. There's stuff I miss and go, oh, man, how did I miss that?
Yeah.
And I'm involved. I'm reading what I consider the best articles. This daily update from Johns Hopkins is a great source of information. JohnsHopkins.com. Look up COVID-19. They give you a daily rundown. It's extremely digestible. It's not meant for somebody with a PhD. It's for you and I.
Okay.
There's numbers, there's cases, there's deaths around the world. And I think it's the leading kind of website for COVID information right now.
I'll definitely check that out for sure. John Hopkins. Yep.
Yeah,
Any
they're
other
doing a great
sources?
job.
Any other sources of information for anything health wise that you like to read, or what do you keep up on?
Well, I try to stay up on current trends in what I do specifically in paramedicine. So I stay involved with the new science that comes out from the American Heart Association, which is generally a couple years behind the rest of the world, but it's what we have in this country, so that's what I do. And I also teach. I teach CPR and advanced cardiac life support and pediatric advanced life support for about 16 years now. So that helps me stay abreast of what's happening, what kind of trends and what we're doing as far as treatment and assessment protocols and what we're looking for and how we're treating it, and always trying to get better. What we did 10 years ago, not necessarily what we're doing now, just like anything else, including training, whether it's for a sport or just for fitness. Mm-hmm. They say, well, we're going to work out until we throw up every day.
I remember those days. My God.
Yeah, well, we know now that what are you training for? Well, me personally, I'm training for life. So one of my buddies said, never train to failure, because when you leave the gym, if that emergency happens right outside the gym and you're smoked,
Yep.
now you're useless to yourself and to anybody who might need your help. It seems counterintuitive that you work out less hard and get better benefits. I'm not a bodybuilder. I'm not going into competition. I don't have to lift until I can't move.
Yeah.
I'm training for life. I want to be able to function as a human being. I don't want to be that guy who trains all day and then reaches into my back seat and rips my shoulder apart. I've seen it happen.
Yep.
So along with all the stuff that we do, fitness-wise, have some sort of always go into a training regimen with a good dynamic warm-up. The other thing that people fail to do is breathe. You have to learn how to breathe. Again, I'm pulling this right from my buddy Tom Phillips. Sorry, Tom, biting all over your info, but you got to breathe through your nose. It's very important, whether you're training, sleeping, or just walking around, because you build a better immune system by breathing better. Mm-hmm. It's at the cellular level, and I can't get into it because I don't know enough about it.
Ro talks a lot about that when in yoga, the different breathing techniques. Exactly.
Breathe into your belly. Wim Hof breath holds, or that guy Stig Severinsen from Breathology. You want to find out about breathing, go listen to these guys.
Yeah, Wim Hof was that guy, the Iceman, right?
The Iceman.
Oh,
yeah,
my God, unbelievable.
Yeah, I don't think he's ever been sick a day in the last 30 years.
Could not imagine going into that water.
He does crazy stuff. The other guy does the same stuff. He holds a world record for free diving. And don't ever practice deep breathing in water without somebody with you. Yeah. Do it on your couch.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how much you can get done in such a short period of time. Take 30 big breaths in through your nose. Guarantee you feel better in 5 minutes. I'll leave you with that.
Hey, it's been awesome having you here, Mitch. Thanks again for coming on the show, giving us some insight from an EMT's perspective, or for a paramedic's perspective, excuse me.
Yeah, it's okay.
As far as everything, from health and COVID-19. I hate the name, by the way, COVID-19.
Yeah.
Sounds like something out of Harry Potter, like a bad guy or something. But maybe I'll get a badass dog and name it COVID one day. I don't know. No, that's kind of stupid, actually. Screw that.
Yeah, it's a little rough.
But anyway.
I named my dog after a serial killer.
Really?
Dexter.
Oh, Dexter.
Well, a TV serial killer.
I love Dexter, man. Your dog's awesome.
He is awesome.
I feel like I have so many people on the podcast that have dogs. I just did one with my friend yesterday, and she just got a new dog. So a previous one, I'll show you the video later. Funny video. Shout out to Joe Calderon, the Domino, the Mexican pug story.
That's awesome.
Funny story. I'll share that with you later. But anyway, it's been an awesome podcast. Thanks again, Mitch, for being on. And thanks everybody at home for listening. Definitely support the podcast and be nice to your EMT, EMS, your paramedics, your first responders, especially right now, guys. Just say thank you, man. They're doing their job. They're doing the best that they can, especially in this crazy ass time. And like you heard, they're just doing their job and trying to stay home. It's not trying to stay healthy in the midst of all this and get back home to their families. So
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. I know I was a bit scattered, but, it's an old brain. I got a lot of info in there. I can't remember what I did 20 minutes ago. Well, I can't remember what I did 20 minutes before I got here, but I have a lot of stuff to say.
I think we kept it together pretty good, Mitch. Thanks again, man.
Thank you, Harry.
Take care, everybody.
Okay, good night.